Good evening and welcome. You're watching the news track. I'm Rahul Kanwal. Rarely, if ever, would there have been such a massive national outpouring of grief after the passing of any industrialist. The kind of emotions we saw after the demise of Ratan Tata are frankly quite unprecedented. On the news track tonight, we'll be remembering the life and times of the legendary Ratan Tata from the House of Tata.
I think today India is a different nation than it was. People have self-respect, they demand respect, they have an urge to create their livelihood.
We suffer from one weakness in this country, and that is the weakness of being too individualistic. For India to move ahead into the world and to be a greater force, I would like to see all of us being Indians first, shedding our vested interests and our differences.
Don't mind getting old until you get old. The world of genuine feelings for one another, good-natured companionship that we all take for granted.
So who takes on the baton from here?
There will be other leadership, and hopefully that leadership will in fact embody the same desire and the same drive. Even though I may not be there, we're having a new India which is about to emerge.
From the common man to the staff of the Tata Group, the country's most powerful politicians and industrialists, they were all there in Mumbai today to pay tribute to India's iconic billionaire Ratan Tata. A man of few words, he made Tata a global power and steered India's growth story. Tonight, we bid farewell to Mr. Tata.
This is the true legacy of Ratan Tata. From scores of company employees to India's most powerful politicians and industrialists, all united in grief, mourning the loss of the gentle giant of India Inc. Ratan Tata's body lay in state at Mumbai's NCPA from 10:30 a.m. to 3:55 p.m., where thousands from all walks of life came to bid farewell. Many waited in long lines, a testament to the deep respect and admiration Tata inspired. Tata's half-brother Noel, chairperson of the Tata Group N. Chandrasekharan, received those who came to pay respects. Among those who arrived to pay tribute were Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, and Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. NCP Sharad Pawar and Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu were also present.
आज श्री रतन टाटा जी हमारे साथ नहीं रहे हैं, परंतु उन्होंने जो लेगेसी छोड़कर जा रहे हैं वो लंबे समय तक देश के औद्योगिक क्षेत्र में काम करने वाले, नेतृत्व करने वाले सभी लोगों के लिए पथदर्शक बनेगी, रास्ता बताती रहेगी.
Everybody can do business, but Tata is the best example for doing ethical business, doing business in a right way. Ratan Tata ji is a great loss, but we have to carry his legacy. That legacy will be permanent.
Industrialist Mukesh Ambani, accompanied by his family, his wife Neeta, son Akash and daughter-in-law Shloka also paid his respects at the NCPA. Ambani was greeted by Noel Tata, Ratan Tata's half-brother, and had a brief conversation with Tata's son's chairman, N. Chandrasekharan.
Ratanji, I think, to my mind, not only gave leadership to the House of Tatas, but more importantly, also inspired next few generations.
उनकी कंपनियों ने हर तरह सपोर्ट की, ना केवल बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां बना करके, लेकिन एजुकेशन में सपोर्ट किया, हेल्थ केयर में सपोर्ट किया, कम्युनिटीज़ को सपोर्ट किया, आर्ट्स को सपोर्ट किया. सो बहुत यूनिक, कंप्लीट, जैसे कहा जाता है ना, कंप्लीट बिजनेस लीडर थे वो.
No, I always saw my father and him, together, and obviously, I think we're very similar as families as well with our value systems. So obviously that brings us closer as well. My condolences to his entire family and everyone who's worked closely with him. I think, and my prayers, and I hope that whatever's best happens.
I think a great example for all youngsters who grow up in this country, that you can achieve greatness beyond human imagination. You can lead the world. You can be a great industrialist. You can be a great moneyed man. But you can still have that heart. You can still have that simplicity, and you can still live a life which is so simple that you cannot imagine.
Actor Amir Khan and filmmaker Kiran Rao also paid their respects.
रतन जी ने जो कंट्रीब्यूशन दिया है, उनकी कंपनी टाटा, उनसे पहले से और उनके लीडरशिप में जो कंट्रीब्यूशन दिया है देश के लिए, वो अमूल्य है. इट्स प्राइसलेस एंड बहुत ही रेयर किस्म के इंसान, और हम सब उनको बेहद मिस करेंगे.
Ratan Tata was known for his love for dogs and animals. In a fitting tribute, Goa, his pet, also met him one last time. Ratan Tata's mortal remains were then transported from the NCPA to Worli for his final rites. Close to 200 people present, including Ratan Tata's brother, Jimmy Tata. Parsi prayers were recited for about 45 minutes. The famously media-shied mogul was cremated with full state honours. Bureau Report, India Today.
For many decades, the story of India Inc. was the story of the Tata Birla families. And at a time when the entire nation mourns the passing of the legendary Ratan Tata, to reminisce about the life and times of this larger-than-life industrialist, we're joined live and exclusive on the India Today network at this time by Kumaramangalam Birla, chairperson of the Aditya Birla Group. Thank you very much, Mr. Birla, for taking out time on a day when all of India seems to be in mourning. There's such an outpouring of grief and emotion, not just from politicians, from industrialists, but even from the Aam Aadmi. You knew Mr. Tata at very close quarters. Can you give us a sense of what is it that you think made him so special? The country seems to be in mourning. It's almost as if everyone had some connect with Mr. Tata. What is it that you think made him strike such a direct chord with so many people?
So Rahul, let me start by saying that our families have been friends for more than a couple of generations. So it does feel like a personal loss for sure. My father and he in particular were very close friends. He called me the day after my father passed and said, you have a friend at the end of a telephone line in me and you can call me anytime. I can't forget that he stood behind me all through my father's funeral, that too wearing a suit. He was pretty drenched by the end of it all. I think his biggest legacy goes beyond his industry. His footprint, as we know, extends beyond this industry. He impacted India in a very real way. I think his legacy as a humanitarian and as a philanthropist will actually be larger than his legacy as an industrialist, which in itself has been very large and very profound. I knew him from very close quarters. I saw him as, in the role of a partner. I saw him as a member of his board. I was on the board of Tata Steel, and have a lot of very interesting memories, rich memories. I remember I was on the board of Tata Steel when the Tatas were going through a transition. You still had, veterans from the group being wheeled into the boardroom in wheelchairs. And I could see his extreme discomfort. He also had spoken to me about it, but he was always very courteous, very polite. And that was a man, very simple, led a very frugal life. From what I know, he lived in a very simple home, hardly had 2 or 3 domestic staff at home, despite the fact that he was aging and needed help. The only luxury he allowed himself were, I think he spent on clothes and shirts and suits, nothing really beyond that. So he was truly a humanitarian. I think he ran the Tata Group truly like a trustee of shareholders and of the people. His involvement with some of the Tata charities was quite deep. Of course, he was very low profile, shunned publicity, stayed away from the limelight. I guess you guys know that better than anyone else. So a giant of a man, he leaves a legacy and a life that I think we should all celebrate.
Sir, the relationship of competition and cooperation between the Tata and Birla groups goes back decades. In fact, in 1944, J.R.D. Tata and G.D. Birla ji together played an important role in the formation of the Bombay Plan. Can you give our viewers at this time a sense of the history of cooperation and at times competition between the Birla and the Tata groups, and how you were able to maintain these personal equations despite the fact that in industries like cement, steel, your companies were at loggerheads and in competition?
There never was any sense of competition, to be honest, Rahul. Never felt that. I think one would say that the two groups have been like siblings almost, with their fortunes inextricably linked with each other. The only common industry, frankly, was telecom, where we were partners for a while. I don't think there was any sense of competition. My great-grandfather, G.D. Birla, and J.R.D. were very close. There was a point in time when we as a family held more shares in the Tata companies than the Tatas themselves. And I remember my great-grandfather used to send the proxies to J.R.D. before the AGMs of his companies. Both of them were architects of India and Indian industry post-independence. Very alike in the way that they conducted themselves and their vision for the country. So I think that we have bonds between our families that go back a long time. And I see a great resemblance in the culture and values shared between the two families and the two groups.
So one is trying to build the India story. The other is trying to take the India story internationally in the international acquisitions that Mr. Tata made of Land Rover, Jaguar, etc. Do you want to tell us what you learned by observing Mr. Tata serving on the boards, by observing him in action? What were the reflections that you tried to pick up by seeing this legend in action?
I think he was very bold in the decisions that he took, especially with JLR and with Steel. He had a style where he let these foreign acquisitions kind of remain at a distance and not really integrate them along with the mother companies. That was a style that was quite typical of his. I really don't know why he chose to do that. Maybe he just thought that was the more practical thing to do. once he decided that he wanted to acquire something, whether in India or overseas, he would go after it and almost acquire it at any cost. But he was passionate. He was passionate about Tata Motors, for sure. I think Chorus gave him a lot of trouble, but he was quite passionate about it when he made the acquisition. And as you know, he paid a very handsome premium for it. So I think he believed that Indian industry had it in him to go global. And that was reflected in his decisions to make overseas acquisitions.
What do you think a young entrepreneur, someone with a startup, somebody hoping to build some company, should learn from the manner in which Mr. Tata conducted himself at a time when we see so much display of wealth or ostentation? What do you think are the biggest lessons young people can learn from the life and times of Mr. Tata?
I think that, he always had a larger purpose. In his case, it was the purpose was to build India as a nation, whether through his industries or through his charities, of which, there were many and very deep impacting ones. I think that the takeaway for me, and I would guess for young entrepreneurs, would be that it's important to have a larger purpose that goes just, beyond the P&L and assets that you create. I think it's the larger purpose that drives you to do things that are beyond the ordinary and really make a difference.
What do you think of the mental makeup of a person who goes against the advice of professionals around him, who suggest against spending money on building a nano car or an Indica, saying that this may not work, or even the purchase of Air India, which is a very difficult acquisition, the group still trying to figure out how to bring it together and make it financially viable, and yet he's determined by a larger purpose of connecting with the Aam Aadmi, providing him with a cheap car, that he's determined to go out and make it no matter how much it costs or what it takes to get it done.
Well, I know that in the case of Air India, it was probably an emotional decision for him. He was extremely close to JRD, who he called Jay. He talked often about his relationship with JRD. He considered him his mentor. So I can see the emotion behind getting the Air India brand and the Air India, the company, into the Tata fold. I'm not sure he really listened to anyone once he had made up his mind about something. I think that, he was a man of his own conviction. Once he'd made up his mind, for example, that he wanted to launch something like the Indica, he would do it. And he would, he was pretty hedonistic in some ways, jokingly, about going ahead with the projects that he held close to his heart. I must say, in a very determined way.
So the other thing that conjoins the two groups is the emphasis on philanthropy. Both the Birla Group and the Tata Group place so much emphasis on different aspects of philanthropy. Of the efforts that was made by Mr. Tata, what stood out to you, and what do you think is a lesson that other groups in similar positions to try and give back to society can potentially learn from?
I was with a close relative at the Tata Cancer Hospital in Calcutta a few years ago. That was my, the first time I was going there, and I was hearing about stories from them about the involvement of Mr. Tata. And I was quite moved to know that his involvement was so deep. He didn't really talk about them, and I must say that our family also doesn't like talking about the charities that we do. It's been a few generations of charity in different ways, but we ourselves don't know much about it. We hear about it, but really don't know. It's not documented anywhere, nor does the family, care about really documenting it. And I find that there is a very similar story. I think that they rarely speak about their contributions to society. Their institutions, of course, speak for themselves, whether it's Tata Cancer Hospital or it's TISS. I've never seen him or seen an interview of his or read an interview where he talks about the charities that they do. I think he's always been very quiet about it.
So one of the things that Mr. Tata grappled with was the issue of succession, where he attempted something that didn't work out. How do you look at the aspect of business continuity in the absence of this larger-than-life figure, the future of Tata Trust, Tata Sons, and the various Tata Group companies? How do you, looking from the outside, assess that?
I don't have any insight on this, Rahul, so it may not be correct for me to comment, but I think that he leaves behind a set of companies, industries that are very robust, and I think that, they're self-sustaining, they are all institutions in themselves. I think whoever takes over, I mean, if there is such a plan, I don't know if there is, I think we inherit a great legacy and assets that an inheritor should be really proud about. I'm sure that will unfold in the next few days.
Finally, sir, before I wrap up, any personal story, memory of your times with Mr. Tata that comes to your mind? You'd gone to the NCPA this morning, so when you were there, when you're seeing people around you, what are the stories about Mr. Tata that were flashing in your mind?
Lots of them, actually, and like I said, I was fortunate to have spent a fair amount of time with him. He was a very honest and a candid guy. I remember one instance where we were sitting together in a public function, and he looked very uncomfortable. And I asked him if he was unwell, because he just looked, extremely like he was, in some kind of pain almost. He said, "I'm very nervous." I said, "For what?" He said, "I have to go and speak in front of 1,000 people." I said, "But you must have done this a zillion times over." He said, "That's true, but I'm still very nervous. It makes me very nervous." I happened to mumble something like, "Yeah, I'm nervous too." And he said, "I don't think that's true. That's true. You don't look nervous. And I have never seen you look nervous before addressing a gathering. But it's one of my worst fears to face an audience." So, he was vulnerable and sort of spoke about his vulnerabilities often, which made him so much more endearing.
Mr. Birla, for sharing your memories and reflections on the life and times of Mr. Ratan Tata. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate you making this effort to join us. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rahul.
Ratan Tata stepped down as chairperson of Tata Sons in 2012, but his influence in India's business community grew despite that. From guiding startups to global success to sharing invaluable insights with young founders, Ratan Tata became a beacon for innovation. His legacy beyond the Tata empire now includes 40 startups he's helped shape.
Ratan Tata hung up his boots as the chairman of Tata Sons in 2012. Exactly 50 years after he walked in as an intern into the offices of National Radio and Electronics Company Limited at Andheri in Mumbai. But his life since then has been anything but idle. The last 12 years saw him emerge as an angel investor, blazing a path of success as a startup investor. Tata had over the years invested in several successful startups. As he famously said, "I view these investments as a learning experience." Ola, the company which started off as a cab aggregator, then became India's largest e-scooter manufacturer. Paytm, India's largest e-payments app with a presence in every nook and corner of the country. Snapdeal, one of India's earliest e-commerce success stories, all received a financial nudge from Ratan Tata. As chairman emeritus of Tata Sons, the 86-year-old oversaw a corporate empire spanning over 150 countries. The group valuation as in August was around 34 lakh crore rupees. But Ratan Tata himself never entered any billionaires list. He did, however, ensure a bunch of others did. Among the other big startups Tata invested in are big brands like Lenskart, an internet-first eyewear brand, Urban Company, an app-based platform for household services, Car Deco, a company offering research and trading in cars, First Cry, an online retailer of baby products, Moglix, a B2B marketplace of industrial goods, Upstocks, an online equity trading platform, Traxon, an intelligence platform for market data, CureFit, online platform for fitness and wellness services, Zivame, an internet-first brand for women's apparel, Ampere Motors, a manufacturer of electric vehicles. These were only among the more than 40 startups catalyzed by Ratan Tata. And it wasn't just financial help that he offered. The founders got a large helping of his deep market and industrial insights as well. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
To talk about the life and times of the legendary Mr. Ratan Tata, I'm joined live and exclusive on India Today at this time by Senior Minister in the Modi Cabinet, Union Commerce and Industry Minister, Minister Piyush Goyal joins us. Piyush ji, at a time when so many people across the country are in mourning, there's been an outpouring of grief, not just from government, from industry, but even from common people who seem to have been touched by the life and times of Ratan Tata. How do you, as Commerce and Industry Minister, it's literally your job to meet all top industrialists, interact with them in different capacities. How do you remember the lifetimes and the body of work and the kind of work that he developed at Tata Sons of Mr. Ratan Tata?
Rahul, the country today has lost a titan, a legend whose memory can never fade away. He will live on in our lives. His work will take the India story across the world for years and decades to come. Very simple person, very, very polite, kind, soft-spoken and loving by nature. Somebody who earned the trust of not only the employees of Tata Group, not only the governments in India, across the world, but I think of 140 crore Indians. The trust that the Tata Group acquired under his leadership is profound. And throughout his career, since he joined the Tata Group in 1961, until his last breath, he lived and breathed the Bharat story. He epitomizes everything that Bharat is proud of. A proud son of the soil, somebody who believed in Atmanirbharta, the very concept of having an Indian car developed in India, developed and designed and produced in India with Indian components, speaks volumes about his passion for the country. Yet at the same time, he made Tata a global conglomerate, took the India brand, the India story across the world in more countries than anybody else has ever forayed. And today, Bharat and Tata are synonymous.
So much of Mr. Ratan Tata's life was also about values, about beliefs, about trust, and building a group which was very value and trust oriented. In the kind of hyper-competitive, grow-at-all-cost kind of environment that we live in, how would you compare your interactions with Mr. Tata with everyone else who'd come and meet you, interact with government in different capacities?
Well, if I recall my interactions when I used to go to Bombay House to meet him, it was always full of enthusiasm for the India story. He always focused on the future, would share his vision, would share his ideas, was willing to take challenges. I remember soon after he became chairman of Tata Sons way back in 90, he was confronted with a lot of difficulties. There were titans heading each of the Tata Group companies. But with his soft-spoken approach, with his positivity, the way he endeared himself to everybody, the way he earned the love and affection of the entire Tata Group. I think he came across always passionate for the country and desirous of seeing India as a developed nation, seeing the prosperity of every Indian. I still remember when he came home to meet me in Delhi. We spent about an hour. He never asked for anything of the government. He was only passionate about what he could do for the country. And soon after we met, that was I think sometime in 2016 or so, at my home in Delhi, I approached him around mid-17 to discuss with him about the Wi-Fi plans that the Indian Railways was implementing. I remember we had taken Wi-Fi to about 1,000 stations, and then we ran out of support and funding. At that point of time, we were looking for almost 450 odd crores to fund the Wi-Fi installation in every station across the country. I think there were about 6,500 stations which we wanted to also provide Wi-Fi, given that it was a very successful experiment, and we wanted that in every small station across the country, Wi-Fi we made available so that children could also take the benefit of that, passengers could take the benefit of that. And spontaneously, without hesitating for a moment, he said, "You don't have to worry, Mr. Goyal. Tata Sons will provide the funds." And he provided the entire funding to take Wi-Fi to the length and breadth of the country. And after that, I would see children studying at night at the stations under the Wi-Fi which was funded by the Tata Sons. Every moment spent with him is a fond memory. I remember once he came home in Mumbai to have breakfast with the family. That was probably a couple of years ago. And we had a simple idli, dosa, vada sambar served for breakfast. He was so profuse in his happiness, in his thanks. I mean, he just went raving about a simple breakfast. And just before he was leaving, he actually asked my wife, "Would you like to have a picture with me?" And obviously everybody wanted a picture with him. But it was such a cherished moment, I can't tell you. Sorry.
The other thing which was remarkable about him was about how he wanted to take the India story internationally. The purchase of Jaguar, Land Rover, all these iconic international brands, and running them to international standards, but with a very Indian orientation. So talk us through how he also tried to take the India story and leave a global stamp.
Rahul, I remember there was a point of time that Chorus, Tata, Jaguar, Land Rover, all these companies were going through severe stress. And every analyst on the street would say that Tatas will be run down by these acquisitions. But Mr. Ratan Tata had the courage of conviction that he had made a good bet that in the long run, the India story would be incomplete without an international footprint. And I think he withstood his ground. He turned them around. He always took the best of executives. Mr. Chandrasekaran, whom he appointed as the chairman of TCS earlier, and then to look after the entire Tata Group since 2017, has done the Tata Group proud by all of these companies turning around, coming of age. I remember a small story. I was in the US about 3 or 4 years ago, visiting a Tata facility jointly with Cornell. which they had set up for developing the startup and innovation ecosystem. And during the presentation, they showed that the New York Marathon was sponsored by TCS. And I spontaneously asked, why should TCS be sponsoring the New York Marathon? They said, no, but we also sponsor the India Marathon. But at the same time, today, India is sponsoring the New York Marathon, sends out a message to the world. And I realized that it was a very, very profound decision, a very telling decision, which took the India story to the whole world. And today a company like TCS, which was seeded under the stewardship of Ratan Tata ji, is the pride of India across the world. And the Tata brand helps people recognize the capabilities, the high trust and quality that is guaranteed when you buy an Indian product. And therefore I said Tata and Bharat, in a way, have become synonymous in the world's eyes.
Minister, you're an alumni of the Harvard Business School, and one of the iconic buildings there is the Tata Hall. And that again speaks to Mr. Ratan Tata's desire of ensuring that India is not just seen as a net taker but a net giver as well. And he was, of course, an alumni of the Advanced Management Program, and he says that it played a big role in shaping his management values and principles. But this desire of leaving an Indian imprint, you know, whether it is in the purchase of marquee international companies or even something as simple as making a big donation, ensuring that there is a massive hall at the premises of the Harvard Business School in the name of an Indian firm. And this is long before it became fashionable to do so.
Rahul, Mr. Tata would be one of the largest donors to the education system in India. His donations, his philanthropy, his care and concern for improving the education across the length and breadth of India is legendary. But he also realized that ultimately the India story is an international story also. And Harvard Business School is a college, is an institution through which legends are going to graduate, through which some of the world's top business tycoons will be getting their education. I think it was very, very far-sighted of him, very thoughtful of him to donate to the Harvard endowment, and it was very gracious of Harvard Business School at that time led by Dr. Nitin Noria, who also served on the Tata Sons board for many years, to have a hall named after Mr. Tata. And I think that will remain as a living memory for the world and for every graduate of Harvard Business School, to remind them of the great work that Mr. Tata did, whether in business or whether in philanthropy. And it will encourage others to continue to contribute to education in our own country and also take the India story international.
So finally, you're not just a minister and a BJP leader, you're also somebody who studies the India corporate story very closely. In the absence of this iconic legend, how do you see the issue of business continuity, succession, and the future of the Tata Group without the presence of the towering Mr. Ratan Tata?
Great leaders leave behind great legacies, and I am sure and very, very confident that Mr. Tata will leave behind a corporation, a conglomerate, an international company which will continue to flourish, continue to prosper, continue to grow with the growing India story. The next few decades are India's. We will, in the Amrit Kal, become a developed nation. Viksit Bharat 2047 is the collective commitment, is a promise that 140 crore Indians have made to themselves. And this commitment will be a part of the Tata Group commitment also. I have absolutely no doubt it is going to continue to be India's jewel And Ratan Tataji's legacy will live for years, decades, if not centuries, as the Tata Group flourishes and grows from strength to strength.
You know, for your candid insights and also bearing your heart and being so emotional in this remembrance, Minister Piyush Goyal, thank you so much. Deeply appreciate your time and for you to join us here. Thank you, sir. You know, you were at the helm when the Tata Group was trying to purchase Air India from the government. You know, give us your personal reflections on, you know, that whole process, your interactions with Mr. Tata and his desire to buy a government PSU, which many thought would be a commercially unviable proposition, but his commitment to do this was very high. Explain all of that to us, sir.
Rahul, first of all, it's a first loss for me, and I join the whole nation in paying homage to the business titan Ratan Tata ji. My association with him goes back almost about 40 years. I first met with him when I was all of 10 years old with my father. It's a very old family relationship going back 3 generations. My great-grandfather, Madhav Maharaj I, was very close to Jamshedji Tata ji when he set up Tata Steel. And in fact, it was the Scindias who funded Tata Steel at that point of time. My grandfather, Jivaji Rao Scindia, was very close to GRD Tata ji and brought Air India to Gwalior when Air India started in 1942. And my late father was very close to Ratan Tata ji. I have had a long association of 40 years in my years in Mumbai, then as a banker when I came back from Harvard, where we met with many Tata Group companies as well as Ratan Tata ji. Always been someone who's been very caring, a visionary. What he accomplished in his lifetime is beyond the scope and reach of any normal human being. He had the ability to take risks where no one would dream of venturing, whether it was the Tata Nano project, whether it was the acquisition of Tata Tately, the acquisition of Chorus, JLR, and then finally taking Air India back into the Tata fold from where she had initially sprung. He was someone who was always obsessed with quality of service, obsessed with customer feedback, obsessed with satisfying every single customer that the Tata Group interacted with. And he was very clear on the notion that profits are secondary, satisfying every customer is first. He was a visionary leader not only for the Tata Group, taking it from a $4 billion enterprise to a $100 billion enterprise, but he was a visionary for India, Rahul. He was one of the giants that planted India's flag firmly across nations across the world. And therefore, he will be someone who will be missed by every single Indian, irrespective of age. I remember in 2016 taking him to the Scindia School Founders Day at the ripe old age of 80. And the way he interacted with children, the way they flocked to him, he was an icon even in this generation's mind. I last had a meal with him 2 years ago in his Mumbai house with my family, with my wife and my son, introducing him to the next generation. And he was effusive, warm, caring. His love for animals, his philanthropic value. I still remember in early days as a child, every stray dog was welcome in Bombay House, his headquarters. And at the heart of it, a very caring man. And he's going to be missed because not only was he the head of a huge multi billion-dollar enterprise, but the heart of it, he was a wonderful human being.
A dreamer, doer and a dog lover, Ratan Tata's interests and passions went way beyond the boardroom. His deep love for animals was a defining part of his life. From opening the Taj hotels to stray dogs to skipping prestigious events for his sick pets, his compassion knew no bounds. As we remember Ratan Tata today, his unwavering kindness to every living being stands as a testament to his greatness.
Ratan Tata's demise feels like a personal loss to all of us. And he will be remembered not just for the business empire he built, but leaving behind a legacy of philanthropy. Key among other initiatives was Ratan Tata's love for animals. His best friends were his furry companions, and his love translated to animal shelters and hospitals. Ratan Tata even mandated that his popular Taj hotels would always have their doors open to stray dogs and to give them shelter. From his young days to the very end, Ratan Tata was accompanied by his most loyal friends, and he always kept them on priority. Back in 2018, he was to receive a prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award from the British royal family, but he chose to skip the event because one of his dogs fell sick. That one incident speaks volumes of what his pet dogs meant to Ratan Tata. Tata's vision of a full-fledged animal hospital came to life when the small animal hospital was inaugurated last year, again showcasing his commitment to providing care for creatures who cannot speak for themselves. It was Ratan Tata's kindness to every living being that truly made him so loved and so missed today. Bureau Report, India Today.
Rest in peace, Mr. Ratan Tata. This is where I wrap up the news track tonight. I'll see you tomorrow at 8. Goodbye. Good night.